Yo guys, what up? So just want to talk about the delivery in terms of looking at, 12U, Little League youth guys. This obviously depends on the development process for certain guys, right? This isn't going to be tailored for every 12U, but I'm going to speak to the mass majority because I get a lot of questions regarding, how certain dads or moms should approach the mechanics side of a 12U player. So first and foremost, I echo this thought all the time. Athleticism is going to trump all, right? The ability for the athlete, even at a youth level, to play different sports and learn about different forces and different things moving throughout their body and creating authentic stability just by playing tag or catch or whatever it is, and just the overall body awareness and athleticism that promotes, right? It's going to better equip him long term. But specifically speaking from the delivery, obviously I don't like to overcomplicate even the pro guys that I work with, but especially the young guys. Speaking about 3 different things today to keep it extremely simple. And if you're a parent watching this, then obviously hopefully hopefully you could take something from this. So it's going to be 3 things, right? So it's going to be about rhythm, direction, and posture. We're talking about those 3 things. So first, the reason why I say rhythm is because obviously I'm biased. I think rhythm is extremely important and often overlooked in the delivery. I believe we all try to be on time, right? We know how much timing plays into everything in sports. For me personally, rhythm promotes timing. Your body is extremely adaptable to self-organization if we can be in rhythm, right? So a lot of times with youth guys that have mechanical ideas or concepts in their head, they kind of get into this very robotic type way of throwing, which doesn't allow them to be in rhythm, which then throws off their timing, and throwing off timing per pitch to pitch basis is going to naturally throw off consistency, right? And we want to be consistent. Obviously, when we're talking about 12U, we're not trying to demand excellence out of these guys. We can hold them to a high standard, but the more, I believe, the more stress we put on certain like mechanical concepts, we won't go there. So after rhythm, we're going to be talking about direction. I think direction is a very broad but yet simple thing in terms of how to approach like a 12U kid. Basically, just we want to stay to the target as best as possible. We want to make sure all our momentum and energy is going towards the target, right? So if we establish from the beginning good direction, right, going forward, then we're going to set ourselves up for success. I see a lot of kids, for multiple reasons, right? It's not just one thing, but their direction is thrown off, whether it be a lousy glove side or a lousy drive leg kind of just falling, or just overall lack of kind of athleticism, I guess, and it's more of just a chaotic drive than anything. Biggest thing for me is to put them in positions where they can do a good job of establishing direction, right? Maybe even in certain constraint settings where you're constraining them to only move in a certain direction. Stuff like, counterbalance, putting a 2, well, maybe if they're youth athletes, a 1 pound, and holding direction and holding glove side. Because when we're speaking about this age, what's the thing that they lack more than anyone at higher levels, right? Just overall puberty and stability and strength. So when you lack the stability, you're going to lack the ability to authentically move through time and space. Obviously you don't want to overcomplicate them with that, but if we can allow them to have tools that are going to better organize their body, so counterbalance, connection ball stuff, to make sure that our direction is moving forward without minimal misalignments or misdirections. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. But and then the last thing is posture. Okay, so posture kind of goes hand in hand with direction, because any type of sacrifice of posture is going to sacrifice your direction. So even at that age, I'm still going to say that the body's extremely kind of adaptable, and it's constantly trying to organize in a linear fashion, I believe. So for example, especially at the youth level, you see a lot of kids that sacrifice posture in their initial move, right? So as soon as they lift their leg, they don't really have that single leg coordination or stability, or ankle instability, whatever it is, that they automatically go this way. Okay, so now what's going to happen as soon as you drive, you're going to kind of overcompensate going forward. I think it's the same concept essentially for like their arm path. They don't really have a good grasp for what an arm path or a clean arm path looks like, so they could even, you know, come out and aggressively go into this kind of counter rotation arm path that would then throw off their, you know, counter rotation, which would aggressively pull them into this glove side fly out. We just want to make sure that their posture throughout is as simplistic and even as possible. You know, if they lack, again, I don't want to overcomplicate it with like movement potential, but if they lack, you know, hip flexion, if they have limited range, you can kind of tell by the compensation. So then allow them to not lift their leg as high and try to work on that mobility. And then as soon as they lift their leg, now we can work on that direction moving forward. Again, we're just trying to limit the amount of compensations by having good posture. Another thing would be the opposite of this, would be this, right? So you see guys that will go into their drive and then their glove side will kind of get into this position, which will then lead their trunk, so that then their chest and the trunk will now go forward. So this is another thing that will cause an aggressive glove side pull, because their trunk is compensating forward. So now the body's trying to fight to get back up on that better alignment. So they don't have the stability, authentic stability, to make these kind of in-game, in millisecond adjustments. So it's an aggressive, oh, I got to pull back up online type thing. We see a lot of times, again, I apologize if I do get over complicated, but a lot of times, especially with kids nowadays, I think spend a lot of time on their phone. They'll get into this pattern right here all day, and then they'll limit their ability to rotate with their neck. Cervical rotation will be extremely limited. So then when they go to throw, you get closed off and they're trying to establish good direction, but you get to the point where now you're not really able to see that target because your neck is so limited to the full rotational capacity that here, and now for the body to go, wait a second, we got to see the target, you see an aggressive front side pull just so you can make that compensation with your neck. Again, not trying to overcomplicate it, but those are the three things that I would look for if I was screening a 12U, is just, does he, you know, have rhythm? Is there any type of rhythm that he instills in his delivery with his hands? Is he in unison with his feet and how they move? Does he have good direction? Is he establishing direction from the beginning and holding that similar direction throughout the delivery? And how's his posture? Okay, is his posture, you know, being compensated? Are there things that we need to take a deeper dive into to understand why those compensations are occurring? Is he, you know, like I mentioned, with the limited amount of mobility, we don't necessarily want to, you know, put him on a super strict mobility routine because he's a kid, but we can kind of you know, get away from those areas. If he's a kid with limited amount of mobility in his hip flexion, then he's not going to be a guy that probably does this, right? But at the end of the day, as I mentioned in the very beginning of this video, athleticism trumps all. Don't specialize in a pitcher only at 9 years old. Even if he loves it the most, you know, get him to fall in love with throwing and not pitching. That's kind of my biggest piece of advice, because I know as a kid, for me personally, I love to pitch, but I love to throw more, and throwing was everything, right? Like, I'd take a ground ball, I was throwing. I was taking an outfield pop-up, I'm throwing. That was more fun. So that challenged me with, you know, different deviations of throws. So that's what I would encourage, especially for parents. Again, I'm not an expert by any means on how to efficiently develop a child, but I would say that you don't want to specialize too much. I'm pretty passionate about that. But those three things, hopefully those can help. Hopefully you got something from that video. If not, I apologize for wasting probably 10 minutes of your day. but you're welcome.